Welcome to the dark depths of Subterfuge, a week-long game of pain, horror, betrayal. No, that's it. Subterfuge is a real-time strategy game that you play on a mobile phone or on a tablet, and you give orders to your submarines and your drillers to go and do things. Do you want them to go and help defend a friend? Do you want to go and attack someone nearby? But because it's real time, everything takes a long time. You talk to your neighbours, you build up trust, and then maybe you get stabbed in the back. It's fundamentally quite a human game, which is why this series is mostly video diaries. Who's telling the truth? Who's a big fat liar? Well, you'll find out soon enough. But first, here's a very simple primer on how the game works. Each player's territory is built up of different locations they hold, and there are three types of things. Generators, which increase your capacity for the number of drillers that you can actually have, and drillers basically can either be your army, but they're also what you need to build mines. Mines are what you need to actually win the game. They earn you Neptunium every hour. You get 200 of this, you've won the game. So you kind of need an army to defend yourself, but if you try and defend yourself too much, then you won't be able to build any mines and you won't win. Unless you go a bit mad and try and kill everybody else and take their mines, which sure, you could do. Lastly, factories. Factories churn out a number of drillers, but that'll stop if you've hit your cap from your generators. So yeah, it's already actually quite complicated. Finally, the game also has a knockout condition. Each player has a queen. Queens are quite good. They give bonus shields to wherever they're living, and they can periodically hire specialists, special troop things that just do a variety of things. Some of them aggressive, some not. But if your queen gets killed at any point, then you're out of the game. Knocked out, finished, boomf, boomf, boomf. But the real game here is all trust and paranoia and whispers in the dark. So let's start with day one.
Here we go! Right, so the opening 24 hours of a game of Subterfuge, because it's about submarines, do you see, consists of everybody lunging out to grab the dormant factories and generators around them. Essentially, in this early phase, we're deciding who we want to piss off and by how much. Since we started the game at about midnight UK time, here on the West Coast, I decided to be very greedy indeed, lunging out in every single direction, most notably this cluster of 4 factories over to the east, which we're going to call Factory Gulch. Having had my teeth kicked in previous games of Neptune's Pride, I decided this would be a wonderful industrial centre for me to retreat to in the face of terrible war, keeping me in the game. So, my first move really was to pack my queen into a sub and relocate my entire empire east. Other than that, let's talk about the metagame. One of my borders was with my girlfriend, so we settled into a kind of shaky ceasefire. This isn't as perfect as it sounds. We're both hugely competitive and have a long history of betraying one another in games. With the very real risk of denting our relationship, we carved up the land between us and promised we'd expand elsewhere. For now? At a Netrunner meet, I also had a word with Nels, one of the other 3 players on Vancouver time. The 4 players in the UK would be chatting more easily, making friends and othering us, so we formed an easy ceasefire too. I then sent messages to Joe and Brat to the west. With them, I was friendly, affable, kind Empire Quins. See, when they asked for a town, I would say yes, relying on the simple fact that they're both nice guys, and anything I could do to make them feel more guilty about attacking me would act like a secondary shield around my empire. Brat was lovely. Joe kept making jokes while I was being nice, and that kept me at arm's length, which was super annoying, actually. Like, this British avoidance of intimacy could really be a problem for me. Anyway, that left a single real player on my borders, which was Matt. And with nobody else to worry about, I was free to apply some pressure. In a truly rude play, I dispatched 1 sub to these 2 bases up here. Matt saw this, dispatched 5 subs to each, and went to sleep. Whereupon I cancelled my 1 sub and sent 6 subs to each, giving me both outposts.
Day one, and it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. Me and Quins are sharing a border, which was never going to end well. And for whatever reason, we both just sort of hurled ships at the same places. I don't know why he was doing it. I mean, I was doing it because I was drunk and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I just sent ships out everywhere and then woke up to go, "Oh God, what are you doing, Matt? You've literally started infringing borders everywhere. Luckily, I seem to have kind of brought that back. I think me and Paul are okay. I've kind of taken some stuff fairly near to him, but we've got an agreement. And I think the same is true of me and Lee. I think she's got a factory, I've got a factory. I think we're going to be happy with that. Joe's not very close to me and is also just fairly downtrodden at the moment. I'm a bit worried he's just going to get bullied, so I'm actually going to try and help him out if I can. Hopefully that won't be a mistake.
Hi everyone, Joe Screbbles here. So I'm recording this in the shower because it's a mobile game and I can do things like that. I'm mostly nude. Anyway, we've started Subterfuge. We're in the early stages. So far I've had messages from Matt saying Quinns is suspicious, and then I had a message from Paul saying Quinns is suspicious, and then Chris Bratt said Quinns looks suspicious, and then Quinns got in touch and said, do you want to be my ally in the west? And I looked at the map, and the map does the Super Mario style wraparound, which meant that I was going to be his ally in the west, but he wanted to expand east, which was also me. So Quinns is suspicious, and I'm going to fortify my borders on that side. I don't really trust Matt though either. He was quite forceful. He was more forceful than the rest. I don't know what Paul's deal is, but he's miles away. And Chris has got the widest and friendliest face. So I think I'm going to ally with him. At the moment, my basic idea is I'm going to try and put as many people as I can into one place, because you need 50 drillers, which are your sort of basic units to build a mine. And I don't think everyone's done all the tutorials. They might not know that. And the mines are how you win. So I'm going to do that first. Anyway, I better have a shower.
Arriving at Factory Gulch, though, I found that Matt and Joe were arriving there too. And at Subterfuge's glacial pace, I felt that Matt would be in a position to start pushing back into my territory in maybe 18 hours. And if we were going to go to war, then there was real value in my striking the first blow, ensuring the war zone was located across his outposts while mine continued to spin up drillers. So I got in touch with Nels and Pip, who are also big borders with Matt, saying I was going to push into Matt's territory, and if they wanted to do so too, we'd all encounter reduced resistance and get something for our troubles to get, which is to say, a piece of Matt.
We all kind of have this shared thing of Quinns the monster. Just towards the end of the first day now, he's taken a huge amount of space, and everybody is kind of going, oh, what's going on with this? So I'm doing my best now to just turn everybody against him somehow and say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And how I'm best doing that is with intel. What I've chosen to do on my first day is come and buy a specific person, which is someone who boosts my kind of radars. You can have these specialists, they do things. My radar boosty guy means I can see more things than most people. And this is surprisingly useful, because I can see things like ships going from one place to another, not necessarily anything to do with me. But I've realised this is a game where knowledge is power. And I'm kind of withholding some information at the moment. But I've also realised that information and misinformation is pretty huge. My major plan at the moment is, if she's alongside with it, is to fabricate a war with Pip. If I can give people the impression that I'm having this fight with Pip and I'm having to send resources up there, then hopefully people will think I'm weaker elsewhere, which may lead to them making mistakes.
It's Pip. I'm about to start playing Subterfuge, and I have never successfully played a 4X multiplayer game before. I can't record in-game, so I'm going to recreate it in real life on my bed. Here are my things. This is my area, and I have these subs that have drills on, and I can send them out to do things. The first thing I did was send them out to explore the space and find some outposts. And pretty much instantly, I bumped into people. So I had Lee, I had Paul, I had Butters, I had Nels, and I had Matt Lees. There was also Quinns and Joe, but I never really encountered them. And so because I encountered everybody so early and had quite little space, I decided to start talking to them. And you could start to see the beginnings of allegiances form, but everyone was really, really tentative.
Day one has been interesting, actually. I think I've upset Paul Dean. We had a back and forth earlier. The first day is all about messaging everyone and just building up some communication with the players. It's worth doing. And yeah, it was like, hi, how's Canada, that kind of stuff. And then for some reason, I described the colour that he'd been assigned as like a bit of a snotty green. And he hasn't taken it well. I think it's become a bit of a thing, actually. So that wasn't a good start. Aside from that, it's all about Quinns, apparently. Quinns is the problem. That's what people keep telling me. Both Joe and Matt have reached out at some point today and been all like, yeah, so Quinns has got a lot of territory, hasn't he? Have you noticed?
I'm really worried about Quinns, though. He's got so many factories, and he's kind of going, oh, is everyone happy with their borders now? Is everyone happy with their borders now? Cool. After he's taken a huge amount of space. And it's one of those situations where actually I can't physically stop him right now because he's taking so many factories that within the next 24 hours, by the time any ships I send down will get there, his factories will be up and running and pumping out tons of people. So all I can really do is convince other people. So what I've been doing is I've been using my intel, basically going, well, look, he's got about 75 ships on the north and east borders, which means he can't have anything else anywhere else. So I've been talking to everyone else and trying to work out what their deal is in the hope that they will then push up from behind and start taking his stuff. And obviously, the key to this is Bratters, Mr. Chris Bratt, who I'm hoping will do me proud and kind of go for the pincer attack that has been promised.
I probably will at some point, because the border that we share, me and Quinn's, not particularly well guarded on his side, which is enticing, but importantly, I don't really want to be the first one to do it. I would rather, obviously, that Joe, Matt and Quinn's all bloody themselves on each other, because it makes it easy for me, but also, I don't want to be the first player to attack another player in a really big way. It makes you look like a bit of a dick. Also, unless you wipe out Quinns in this situation, Quinns has got an entire blood feud against you for the rest of the game. I don't want to deal with that. That sounds exhausting. So I'm just going to wait until tomorrow. See how it plays out. Maybe, play along, pretend that I'm attacking Quinns, if anyone asks. But not actually do it until I'm confident I can just score some easy wins.
Really, I don't know what's going on right now. And the biggest thing for me is that I spent a phenomenal amount of time just talking to everyone, saying what you're doing, what you're up to, how you're doing, trying to turn everyone against Quinns. But then I can see these little lights appearing on the screen. It's this great thing of the little light next to people's names means they're on, means they're there. What are they doing? Well, maybe they're queuing up orders, but really there's not a lot of queuing up order stuff to be done in this. So more than likely they're on talking to people as well. What are they talking about? And what are they saying about me? The kind of underwater theme in this and the submarine theme is kind of beautiful in the fact that it really does feel like you have your sphere of influence, you have your sphere of what you can see and you know what's going on, but you very much feel like you're in the dark. And for a game about communications and potentially alliances and potentially subterfuge, it does have this sense of loneliness of you just sending signals out in the dark and hoping that what you're getting back is real. My biggest fear and my biggest problem here is that I think that because I'm one of the people who organise the game, people will kind of do that natural thing that people do with board games of being like, oh, it's Matt's game, so let's all team up against Matt, which is what people do when you play board games with them. And secondly, I've got a bit of a reputation for being a nasty man in games like this. I've got a bit of a reputation for being untrustworthy, and that's not always true, but that's my reputation. So I kind of suspect that it doesn't really matter what I do, people aren't going to trust me. I also know that Quinns is massively untrustworthy, so I'm not going to trust him as far as he's there. He's told me I can have one of these factories at the bottom. He said, oh yeah, you can. He's definitely going to try and steal that back. People aren't going to trust me either. And I'm trying to work out how I deal with that. Like, how do I deal with the fact that people aren't going to trust me? And I've thought about it, I'm like, well, I could just behave in a really trustworthy manner. But that seems pointless because people are constantly going to be mistrusting me anyway. Or I could just behave in a dodgy way, but in a dodgy way that people don't expect. And that's my aim, is to, rather than outwardly betraying people, I'm going to try and just play a mad Machiavellian game of misinformation and lies and false wars and see how far that gets me. Whoa. Because, people expect me to be a bad guy, so I might as well be. Because, yeah. Also, I could really do with a shave and a haircut, but that's just an entirely different problem. But it's a problem.
Joe was pretty chipper in letting me go to war with Matt over in the east with Factory Gulch. I think he figured that Matt and I fighting was good for him, which is true, but I don't think he realizes how useful Factory Gulch is. By the end of day one, I had the most territory out of everyone, a lovely, charming little war on the horizon, and plans for my very first mine. More on mines tomorrow. So long as Joe didn't invade, I could sit pretty. So long as Joe doesn't invade.
Subterfuge Diaries will continue next week because it's a weekly series, and that's God, I have to explain this. Really? Look, just go to coolghost.net. It's cool. Bye!